Good morning. I'm Bruce Trigo, the Pennsylvania State Fire Commissioner, and we're here to talk today a little bit about practicing fall fire safety, and in particular the fall wildfire season as it gets underway. With me today is Deputy Secretary Fred Strathmeyer and Bureau of Forest Division of Forest Fire Protection Chief Mike Kern. Today, I'd like to start first off as the State Fire Commissioner to praise the volunteer fire companies in their service to their communities. It's been a rough couple of years, but their service is always at the utmost perfection, and we do appreciate everything that they're doing. A special reach out to those firefighters that have joined the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, their Bureau of Forestry crews that are battling wildfires far beyond Pennsylvania's borders. Now more than ever, we know that wildfires pose a dangerous and growing threat to our state's forests, the economic interests, and the communities that live and those that recreate near them. Despite the persistent rain that we've seen throughout the summer and most recently, wildfires and brush fires remain a risk, especially as we head into the fall wildfire season. The greatest danger of wildfires in Pennsylvania occurs during the months of March, April, and May, and the autumn months of October and November. In Pennsylvania, 99% of all wildfires are caused by people. To talk to you a little bit more about the economic impact and our forests in general will be Secretary Fred Strathmeyer. Fred.
Thank you, Bruce. I want to thank Bruce as well as our partners at the Bureau of Forestry for inviting the Department of Agriculture here today to speak about the dangers of wildfires. As Bruce said, one of the reasons that I'm here is to talk about the value of the resource, the natural resource here in the state. In our state, we have 16.6 million acres of forest land, which are approximately, there's 70% of that land owned privately, which equates to about 11.5 million acres and 740,000 private owners. Our partners also include the Pennsylvania Game Commission, the Allegheny National Forest in the Northwest, as well as I just stated, the Bureau of Forestry here in Harrisburg. Pennsylvania leads the nation in production of hardwoods, as well as export of hardwoods. The forest products like cabinetry, wood flooring, feed about $39.1 billion into our economy here in Pennsylvania, and it supports about 168,000 plus jobs across the state. Most of what I really want to talk about is that management. The management of the forest is a critical part of the creation of trying to eliminate wildfires here in the state. The management includes disease prevention, invasive insects, and harvesting of the forest. Without these types of practices, this is where we end up in positions that are favorable for wildfires as just one of the reasons why. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to you and I doing our part to prevent these devastating wildfires. A carelessly started wildfire threatens not only our precious natural resource, but our economy and our jobs. Again, I want to thank you for having us here from the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Fred. Next, we'd like to bring up the Bureau of Forestry Division of Forest Fire Protection Chief, Mike Kern.
Good morning. Thanks, Bruce, for the introduction. As Bruce said, I'm Mike Kern. I'm Chief of the Division of Forest Fire Protection within DCNR. I also have the honor of serving as the Chief Forest Fire Warden for the state, which means that I supervise our wildfire suppression and prevention efforts within DCNR. As these gentlemen already alluded to, many of our wildfires in Pennsylvania occur in both the spring and the fall. And we're coming into the fall. It obviously feels like a nice fall day today. And so we're starting to think about our fall fire season and being ready for what that may bring. Also, National Fire Prevention Week is the first week in October, and every year that's a time for people in this nation to think about all kinds of fire safety and fire prevention, not just wildfires, but fires at their home or their business or anywhere else. So it's a good time for us to focus on doing what we can to prevent unwanted fires. In Pennsylvania, almost 99% of all wildfires are caused by humans. That means that most of those fires are probably preventable, and they're often unintentional accidents, but if we start to look at the causes, those incidents could have been prevented. So it's important for us to think about that when we're using fire. Fire can be a powerful tool for us, but it can also be dangerous. It can destroy lives and property or injure people seriously and have a lot of unintended consequences. So we need to be careful with fire and recognize that it can be dangerous if used improperly. Careless use of fire by people burning trash and other debris is the most common cause of wildfires we see in Pennsylvania. They're burning trash or leaves, branches, other yard waste at their home, and it gets away and can quickly cause a wildfire. These fires can often threaten their own property or their neighbor's property. We do find that almost half the fires we respond to occur within close proximity to structures or threaten those structures, and it's important to have a good and safe and effective response from not only our fire wardens and our staff, but also local fire departments that we work closely with. And those folks do a good job, but they're also very taxed and challenged. Bruce kind of said it's been a rough year and a half with the global pandemic and a lot of the other natural disasters we seem to face with more frequency. Hurricanes, winter storms, ice storms, tornadoes, wildfires in the West are often in the news. So our fire and police and emergency services have been pulled in a lot of directions, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down. So with that all in mind, we're at DCNR, we're asking people to please be vigilant with fire this fall and do their part to prevent human-caused wildfires. We don't really need to challenge our first responders any more than they already are. A lot of fire departments in Pennsylvania are volunteer or all volunteer, and they face a lot of challenges organizationally and financially. So we would really ask people to just be careful and think before they use fire this year. Just a few tips. If you are going to burn or use fire at your home, please do so wisely. You can consult our DCNR website to check on the local fire danger in your area before you burn. We would ask that if the fire danger starts at low and goes up to very high and extreme. So if the fire danger is low, it's okay to burn that day. But once you get to moderate or high or above, we'd ask people to please not burn on those type of days. And really, any dry or windy day, please avoid using fire on those days. That's when there's the greatest chance for the fire to get away and cause damage. If you do have to burn, keep some water and a shovel handy near the site in case you need to extinguish the fire. And please don't leave your fire. Please keep it attended and don't leave it alone. We often see people, they go in the house or they go do some other errands after they lit their fire and they walk away from it, and then that's when there's problems. And finally, make sure the surrounding area is clear of any burnable materials to prevent the fire from spreading away. If you can keep an area at least 10 feet clear around the fire, you'll have a much better chance of not having an escape. So, in summary, I'd just like to say, as I've said before, but please do your part to think about what you're doing and to really think through the consequences before you burn. You can if you do cause a wildfire, you could be liable for the cost to put the fire out or any damages you may cause. You know, sometimes a small incident that people don't think through can lead to many years of regret and concern, or, you know, injuries caused, that sort of thing. So please just think about what you're doing and be careful, consult the fire danger, and, you know, if there's ever any doubt, just don't use fire that day and wait for another day. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'd like to take a moment before we open up for questions to thank Deputy Secretary Fred Strathmeyer and Chief Mike Kern for the information that they've provided to us today. The tips from Mike, I think, are very important, as well as understanding the impact of our economy that Deputy Secretary Strathmeyer provided. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize somebody else who I got to celebrate his birthday with here a couple years ago. Smokey, thanks for being here.
How old is he?
He was 75 the last birthday party, right? 76 now? So, you look pretty good for 76, Smokey. So, at this time, I'll open up for any questions that you might have.
We've covered a whole bunch of mountain fires over the years, particularly up in the Dillsburg area, more recently near Camp Tuckahoe. I want to talk a little bit about the impact on Pennsylvania's natural resources when these types of fires break out.
Sure, I'll be glad to turn that over to Mike if you want to take care of that, Chief. I'm sure he has a lot more information on that than I do.
Yeah, so the damage by fire to our natural resources was one of the driving forces behind the creation of our Bureau of Forestry back around the turn of the century, the last century, not this one. You know, at that time, fires were destroying trees and timber. There was whole communities in the northern part of the state that were burned and destroyed by fire. So fire can have a lot of negative impacts. Often wildfires start on the driest and windiest days, so they burn with a higher severity. They can be harder to control and spread faster on those type of days. You know, there are some benefits to native communities with fire. In Pennsylvania, and we're finding that a lot of our natural resources evolved with low intensity fire historically, but that's the challenge with wildfires are unplanned, so they don't start exactly when and where you want them, and they can do a lot of damage, lead to tree mortality, invasive species. Infestations can come in after fires disturb the soil, and they can, you know, a very severe fire can lead to erosion and sedimentation issues.
Could you talk a little bit about how York County in particular has been impacted recently by wildfires?
Yeah, so there was a pretty significant fire in the Dillsburg area this spring, not too far from here, that impacted approximately 100 acres, if I remember correctly, a little bit more than that maybe. Generally, York County, there can be a lot of fires in the spring, but they're often small backyard fires that get taken care of. The challenge with those small fires is sometimes we can find, you know, in more densely populated areas, a small fire even can potentially damage your house or your neighbors or structures. So we still, you know, we don't see a lot of catastrophic wildfire in York County like we do maybe in other parts of the country, but those fires in Pennsylvania can be just as dangerous on a smaller scale.
And of course, firefighters from the Susquehanna Valley have gone to other parts of the country, combat fires out west.
Yes. So Pennsylvania's been assisting other states for several decades now. We have a pretty robust program where we can send our firefighters to other states and parts of the country when they're needed, especially, you know, if they're not needed here. Like it's been wet, so, you know, there hasn't been a lot of wildfires. So we can use those personnel to assist other parts of the state, and that's all done by agreement with our cooperators. We work a lot with the United States Forest Service, National Park Service, and some of the other states in the country. Just about every state has a forestry department like we have here, and we all try to work together on those fires. Wildfire doesn't seem to respect political boundaries. It doesn't stop at the state line, and so we try to cooperate and assist our neighbors whenever we can.
So as we head towards the first weekend of fall, anything you'd like to say to people who may be heading outdoors?
Yeah, it's fall's an interesting time as the leaves start to come off the trees. The forest floor is more exposed to sunlight, so it can dry out quicker. Some days, it can seem wet in the morning. Yeah, it's been wet here. Maybe it just rained, but as the leaves start to come down and things are more exposed on dry and windy days in the fall, we can quickly have dry enough conditions that a fire could start and spread. So don't be deceived, and just try to, like I said before, be respectful of fire, use it in a smart manner, and think about what you're doing before you strike the match. It's very hard to once you start the fire, it's your responsibility, and it's real hard to recall that. You can't unstrike the match as easily sometimes, and you have to put it out, and it's a lot more work at that point. So.
And you say trash burning is the number one goal.
Yeah, trash, and we call it debris burning, but essentially, yard cleanup or cleaning up leaves, burning up of sticks. We'd encourage people to try to dispose of those materials in a different manner, or compost. And if you do have yard waste, try to compost that or chip it up, let it rot.
How about campfires?
Campfires, at certain times of the year, if it's real dry, we can have problems with campfires. The main thing with campfires is people light them and they use them and then they walk away before it's extinguished. So you have to properly extinguish a campfire. If it's still smoking and it's too hot to touch, then it's too hot to leave it. You need to really drown your campfire and stir that up good and make sure it's cool before you can walk away from it. At times, a campfire could hold heat for 12 to 24 hours or 48 hours sometimes. So you really just make sure it's extinguished before you walk away from it, and that would cut down on a lot of campfire problems. Okay. Anything else? Other questions?
We're good then.
Okay. Do you want to say anything else, Bruce? No?
No, just a big thank you to everybody here that participated today, and Smokey. And please, if you're going to go out and enjoy the outdoors over the next several months, please be aware of the information you received today, and recognize that, as Mike so eloquently put it, once you light it, you can't take it back. So be cautious, be careful, and enjoy and be safe.